Hello? What I'm about to share with you is a sad story of mine. My name is Derek. I'm 27 years old, and I was supposed to get married 3 days ago. Unfortunately, I had to cancel everything. Why? Because of Chloe, my fiancée. Chloe and I had been together for the past 5 years since college. Earlier this year, we got engaged, and we were both thrilled about the future. I was ecstatic about our wedding, and everything seemed perfect. Until 2 weeks ago, when everything changed. One morning, I woke up to find Chloe gone. No note, no text, no explanation. Panic set in immediately. I called her, I texted her, but no response. What's worse, her phone was switched off the entire day. I reached out to her family, but they had no idea where she was. I then contacted her friends, but they refused to respond to me. At first, I assumed she had gotten cold feet and decided to run away. But as time went on, I started fearing the worst. Maybe something bad had happened to her? I was on the verge of reporting her missing when, finally, at around 4 a.m., I discovered the truth. It was through Instagram, of all places. One of her friends had posted a series of pictures. They were partying at some bar. I noticed they had tagged the location in their stories and posts. When I looked up the place online, I realized it was in Spain. I was furious. While I had been losing my mind worrying about her, she was out partying with her friends, without a word to me. I immediately texted her. I told her I knew where she was and made it clear that if she didn't get on the next flight back, the wedding was off. I sent her a long, detailed message expressing my disappointment. How could she just ghost me like that? How could she not even have the courtesy to inform her fiancé before jetting off on a vacation with her friends? I was angry, and I made no effort to hide it in the messages I sent her. But even then, she didn't respond right away. I had to wait until the next evening for her to finally call me. That phone call, however, was the most disappointing conversation I've ever had. When Chloe called, I was cold toward her, and she noticed my tone immediately. But instead of apologizing or taking accountability for her actions, she became defensive. She claimed that her college friends had planned this trip for her a long time ago and had only told her about it after everything was paid for. She knew how I felt about bachelor and bachelorette parties. We had discussed it before, and we'd both agreed not to have them. Despite this, she went ahead with the trip. A few days before the trip, Chloe's friends contacted her to inform her about their plans. She told me she felt that she had to go because it would be really rude and inconsiderate to refuse after they had already made all the arrangements and even paid for it. She had known about the trip for almost 3 days before leaving, and yet she hadn't told me about it. That fact made me even more upset. So of course I started yelling at her on the phone about her behavior. Even then, she didn't seem to feel sorry. She just kept getting more defensive. She said that she knew for a fact that if she had discussed it with me, I wouldn't have agreed to it, and that's why she had to hide it from me and leave. She also claimed, though I don't know if it's true or not, that she had tried to contact me later that day after she landed in Spain, but her phone had been acting up. After that, she said she forgot to inform me because she was busy hanging out with her friends. It was unbelievable that something as important as letting me know where she was could simply slip her mind, especially when she was doing something so blatantly wrong. For some reason, Chloe just couldn't understand that what she had done was not okay. Instead, she kept defending herself, saying that she had only ever been with me since she turned 18 and that she deserved to have some life experiences, whatever that meant, before finally settling down with me. I had no idea what she was trying to say. After a certain point, I started getting even more annoyed. I told her that I still stood by what I'd said earlier. I told her I wanted her back on the next flight and that if she didn't return, we would be done, and there would be no wedding. She responded by telling me she wasn't coming back on the next flight because she and her friends had paid for a 2-week vacation, and they would only be returning home a few days before the wedding. She told me I would just have to deal with it. Before I could even respond to that, she disconnected the phone call. When I tried to call her back, she didn't answer. I was extremely upset with her, but I still kept trying to text her for the next 2 days. Eventually, I just gave up because it was obvious that partying with her friends was more important to her than her fiancé, or even the wedding we had been planning together for months. I told her family everything. From what I understand, they tried to contact her and convince her to come back, but she didn't respond to them either. At that point, I did what I had to do. I called off the wedding. I didn't make any formal announcements. Instead, I reached out to everyone who had been invited and sent them a message explaining that the wedding was canceled. I also made sure to tell them not to contact Chloe about this, and I explained exactly why the wedding was being canceled. I then spoke to the vendors, managed the cancellations, and dealt with the associated charges. I figured I would recover the money from her later. But more than the financial aspect, this was about teaching her a lesson. In hindsight, I realized that's where I might have gone wrong. Our parents were furious with me. They wanted me to at least wait for Chloe to return so that we could have a proper discussion. They thought I was acting rashly, but I couldn't bring myself to wait or listen to them. I was too angry and hurt to think clearly. For the record, Chloe and I had never faced anything like this in our relationship before. This entire situation blindsided me and left me questioning everything about us. Of course, like any other couple, we do fight over petty stuff sometimes, but most of the time, they're just insignificant arguments that are easily solvable, and we do solve them. That's why we've been together for almost 6 years. I've never felt like I'm too young to get married or that I'm unsure about her. I thought she felt the same way. But when she said she wanted to have some life experiences before settling down with me, I felt really betrayed. At the same time, I started wondering if I might have overreacted. A couple of days ago, Chloe finally returned from her trip. She came straight back home, but I refused to let her in. She arrived in the evening, and I didn't even open the door for her. I told her to leave from inside the house. We argued for a bit, and she said I couldn't do this to her because we were supposed to be getting married in just a few days. She insisted that all the arrangements had already been made, so I needed to speak to her and sort this out instead of acting so immature. That's when I broke the news to her. I opened the door because I wanted to see her face, and I told her that the wedding had been called off. She had no right to act shocked either because I had made it clear that if she didn't come back soon, this is exactly what would happen. She looked completely stunned, and then I saw her face fall as she started crying. Through her tears, she kept telling me that after 6 years together, I couldn't just dump her over something like this. She apologized over and over again, saying she was ready to do whatever it took to make it right as long as I married her. But I knew in my heart that I couldn't forgive her. It took every ounce of effort, but I shut the door on her. She stayed outside crying and begging for a good 20 minutes before she finally left. I know that Chloe is staying with her parents right now, and they've told me she's completely shattered. She hasn't been eating and refuses to leave her room. They say all she asks is whether I've agreed to meet her yet. Her parents haven't explicitly said it, but I can tell from their tone that they, along with my own parents, think I've been too hasty and harsh in dealing with this. Yesterday, I started questioning myself as well. Yesterday was supposed to be my wedding day. I woke up and the weight of it all hit me hard. A 6-year relationship was just gone, just like that. I'd been receiving messages all day, some consoling me, some forwarding Chloe's apologies. Despite my request that people not involve her, I know that some guests had sent her the message I sent out explaining why the wedding was called off. Apparently, Chloe thought it was all a bluff at first and didn't take it seriously. But now she regrets everything. She's been sending out messages to everyone apologizing and asking them to pass them along to me. In her messages, she's been telling everyone how deeply sorry she is and how much I mean to her. She says she'll do anything to fix this and that she still wants to marry me. She doesn't even care if it's a grand wedding anymore. She just wants to be with me. But I've blocked her so she can't reach me directly. All these apologies come through others. People keep forwarding her messages to me, and honestly, they're starting to wear me down. Yesterday, as I mentioned, was the hardest day. I was supposed to get married, and instead, I felt completely empty. My entire world had been turned upside down in just a matter of days. I decided to visit my parents, hoping they could help me clear my head. But when I spoke to them, I could see they were upset too. Chloe and I have been together for so long that they were emotionally invested in this relationship as well. I thought my parents would comfort me and tell me I'd done the right thing. Instead, they barely spoke at first. And when they did, they said they didn't think I handled the situation correctly. Hearing that from my parents, of all people, was devastating. It only fueled the doubts I'd already been having. Since then, I've been in a very strange mental state. I haven't had the energy or clarity to talk to my friends about it, and I feel completely lost. That's why I'm here now. I need an unbiased opinion. So, am I the bad guy for canceling my wedding after my fiancée went on an impromptu bachelorette trip 2 weeks before the wedding and refused to come back when I asked her to?